Howdy ho, Reject Nation. You know, it has been a while. It's been a while since we
reacted
to the Corridor Crew.
To watch Aaron Lewis himself come and claim us.
Cut to Aaron Lewis. This came out and I was like, hell yeah, we gotta watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Their Snyder Cut of VFX Artists React to. If I'm not mistaken, there's a decent amount of visual effects in Snyder
There are
Cut.
a few of them, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the comparisons between Snyder Cut and Whedon League.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Josstice League, yeah.
John, shall we begin?
We live in a society.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Never really before in history have we had the chance to compare the same high-budget films side by side with itself.
Oh,
The Snyder
yeah.
version feels like it has more momentum and weight.
The human lip is the hardest thing to do in CG.
You will love me.
Man, Steppenwolf just looks like a dude.
Hey, what's up,
In black
everyone?
and
Welcome
white.
back to another episode of Visual Effects Artists React. Today, we are looking at some incredible Marvel movies. Scratch that. No, you heard that right. Today, we're looking at not just the Josstice League, but the Snyder Cut, and kind of comparing the two, because a lot of work was done to make sure the Snyder Cut could happen, and I want to look at the difference.
And a lot of money was spent, too.
How expensive was this movie? Because it's like they filmed the movie, then they filmed all the reshoots, they did all the visual effects for the original cut of the movie, and then for the reshoots, and then for the Snyder Cut. Each time there's money being
Almost
spent.
$500 million.
Probably more than you think is probably the answer to that. But no one will know. They'll keep that under lock and key. Not even the masked detective himself, Batman, could figure
Where is the budget?
Everybody asked us to react to
beautiful
this.
deep
That's super
fake
cool.
right there.
So hey, we like those comments. Keep them coming. It helps us know what to look at.
In terms of just like the idea of doing something like this cinematically is crazy. It is like unprecedented in terms of film history because movie studios don't go back to revisit their stuff. They'll like make a sequel or whatever. It's the first time, as far as we can tell, right? Where it's like, okay, cool, everyone wanted this original version, fine, we'll go and do it again.
Yeah, like normally when you see a director's cut, it's using the same source material with just slightly different editing, like with Blade Runner, you know? It's like, it's basically the same movie, just with a few different implications.
What they didn't do is they didn't go back and reshoot Blade Runner again.
Yeah,
version of the original Blade Runner.
Never really before
Well, they
in
didn't
history have we had
reshoot a
chance to
lot.
compare
I mean, they only got
the
a
same
Exactly.
high-budget films side by side with itself.
Exactly, which is why a close frame-by-frame study of the Snyder Cut versus the Whedon Cut is a film school in a box, because you can infer everything from how does the visual effects approach differ, from how does the script writing and story level differ, from how long a shot's being held to what sequences are rearranged and what else they reshot for the Whedon Cut versus the Snyder Cut. You can learn quite a bit from it.
It's important to have a good file naming convention. It is.
Barry Allen.
Right away, the color correction approach is different. Like, look at the skin tone difference, period, right? Like, in terms of the reds, how much more intensely colorful the
Saturation.
Oh,
Starts
colors,
delving
get
into
them out
the
of my
world visual
face.
effects. Like, arguably, color grading is visual effects. It's you taking your film and manipulating the colors, putting vignettes on, masking certain things out, you know, swapping the blue hue of the sky for more of a gold or something like that. Like, that's visual effects.
People think of color grading as just like dropping a filter on top of footage. And
That
just
kid's
it
a
does
real
what it
Hollywood
does.
color
It's
guy.
Like, no, there's actually a lot of specific attention played out in different parts of an image just to get those colors and lighting contrast right.
Oh, my
for
goodness.
everybody who kind of like makes fun of like, oh, this is Zack Snyder Justice League, it's like, oh, it's all muted and stuff like that. It's like, well, no, he's still getting tonality out of it.
Snyder's almost has like a metallic look to it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Nice.
Difference in the Snyder Cut. Square frame 4:3 versus widescreen. So this is actually something that I think is really interesting. It's a huge, huge thing. I mean, it became a meme, right? Oh, the Snyder's vision. Here's the thing I think is interesting about 4:3. I've always felt that super widescreen for superhero movies makes the superheroes look small. Like when there's a big vista and the person doesn't quite fit in that frame. It's like, just from a visual standpoint, I've always felt like it makes human figures in wide vistas look tiny. which is not the emotional feeling of superhero movies. Superhero movies are about big, larger-than-life characters. So weirdly enough, when I look at the square format stuff, comparing the two movies when I watched it, I actually really liked the square format because it made the individual characters feel like these like godlike figures more so than I think widescreen does.
That's what Zack Snyder was setting out to do. Yes, it's the IMAX cameras, but he's talked about that, how that's like a comic book panel. That's crazy that he picked up on that.
I arrived at it independently.
I was like more over the pages of what I imagined the reason for the 4x3. It's not a 4x3. What is it exactly? I forget. Whatever the square is. Okay. I thought that was more about just representing like the pages from a comic. I didn't ever associate it with the depth and the size of the heroes, as he's pointing out here. When you're dealing with the DCEU, which is more of the gods, you kind of want to have that sense of giants amongst us.
That's an excellent point.
I'm pretty sure the original Justice League movie was finished at the widescreen. The VFX shots were finished at that aspect ratio. Did they have to go back and re-render them with the extra resolution up on top and bottom?
This movie is why it's important to have a good file naming convention structure for your projects, because you never know when you need to go back and open up those old files. You can't open up that folder and be like, ooh, shot 30-1, version 3, final 4. Oh, which one is it? No, you can't have that.
And that's all on Whedon. Like, they did such a good job being able to like bring up their old project files. But here's the thing. It's one thing to be able to like open up your old project files, but you can't just like make it rework for the new stuff that they're adding here. We're gonna have to like dive into that here.
Oh, interesting. This is gonna be a damn good one. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, you're gonna learn today.
I love this theme. I love that they've adopted the structure of the
So I think it is time to address probably the biggest elephant in the room, Steppenwolf. And I think it's very safe to say that one is quite a bit cooler than the other. That's a mild way of putting it.
Man, Steppenwolf just looks like a dude in the 2017
Straight up.
version.
No, like he is. It's straight up just a dude.
Could have
Old
been an
Steppenwolf's
act.
name would
Like,
be like Brody.
didn't even need to do it as an effects piece.
The original Steppenwolf, which is, okay, to clarify, the Steppenwolf we see in Justice League is not the original Steppenwolf. The one we see in the Snyder Cut is the original. That was the original design. They had it, this character,
in BVS,
before Joss Whedon came on board. Like, it looked like that. And they redesigned him, not intentionally to make him look lame, but that was the result.
So one thing that is interesting to me looking at the character design, right? One of them I just don't buy winning against a bunch of Amazons.
superheroes?
Right? Like the one in this giant scaly metal thing, it's like I buy a bunch of
look how much cooler it is.
It doesn't quite work as well if it's this guy in this costume with this sort of medieval looking armor and you have 8 different Amazons holding him down. It just doesn't quite have the same impact. I will say when I was watching it, I found myself like just exploring the physicality of this CG creature way more. Just looking at his like chest and looking at the little, like the way his shoulders are built. Like my eye had something to do like during it, you know?
Steppenwolf's armor is super detailed, right? It's like hyper detailed. There's little bits everywhere. Now there's a big danger to doing something like that because it can very quickly become noise. And it would be a danger of you losing any of his form if you did that. There's 2 things they did to fix that. One is his silhouette is super clean and smooth. The fact that his suit is so shiny, you can still see the bright white outlines of his body as he moves. There's not little spikes everywhere. That's one of the problems you run into with the Transformers robots.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, is there's not really a readable silhouette. But there's another thing that they did.
What's the move to
Transformers? Hyper-detailed polka dot outfit.
Polka dot man.
Maybe the silhouette is smooth, but it's still just noise everywhere, right? Well, that's what you could have had happen with Steppenwolf, and that is what happens with his helmet in the 2017 version, is that it's just a bunch of squiggles, which is basically the same thing as just noise. In the new version, there's a pattern, almost like the direction of your hair, to all of the pieces of his armor. And one of the things the human eye is surprisingly good at is detecting parallel lines and then changes in those lines. Like, I could put a big, pile of noodles on the floor. I could have them all point in the same direction, and I could take
we've done
one.
that before, by the way.
I could take one noodle and turn it from the direction of all the others, and you could just look at it and immediately be like, that noodle's in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And it seems normal until you think about it. Your eye can process 1,000 objects and immediately tell instantly when one is not aligned. And that's the thing that they're relying upon with Steppenwolf's armor, is that by doing the pattern and the flow to it, you're also getting shape, clear, distinct, macro shapes in his armor, even though it's made out of a bunch of micro shapes.
You know what's so cool about what they just pointed out too? The Steppenwolf in Josstice League is a lot simpler. Yet, everything they're pointing out is it's more distracting, though. Everything about his design actually becomes more noisy. The original design of Steppenwolf, the one that's in Zack Snyder's Justice League, abundantly more detailed and has so much more going on with its armor throughout the movie, yet nowhere near as distracting and more lived in, but nowhere near as noisy, which I think is kind of crazy that you can actually put a whole lot more into the design and yet it's less noisy.
Well, yeah, and speaking to the point that I think Nico's making is like you notice partway through is like the little plates are shifting and stuff, and it plays with that ability of your eye to hone in and be like, oh man, so many little details are moving around. The fine line, yeah, between something that is distracting and something that is engrossing.
And some of the animations with the new model, you can see in some of the sequences, it's a weightier animation set. They went in and just tweaked it. And like you can look at some of the movements in earlier versions and then see where it ends up in the Snyder Cut. You can actually see it evolve from being like, this feels floaty to like, oh, this feels like a little more like there's something there and there's momentum behind it.
And there's like weight.
Yes, yes.
There's one shot of Steppenwolf that literally made my jaw just drop when I saw it.
When he picks him up?
Just take care to look at the interaction between the Liquid and CG characters.
I thought it was to pick him up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that's a 3D puddle right there.
Oh, yeah. Just put a puddle in there, make it harder.
Oh, wow, yeah, damn.
For everybody. Put a puddle in there. Get some water in. Oh.
But it's more than just the puddle. There's mud that's coming up.
Yeah,
Interacting with it. That's sick.
So dope. That's sick.
I saw that.
God,
I was
that's
like,
all
oh my
CG.
God. People have no idea how much effort just went into that one small moment to
Oh,
really,
that's fantastic.
like merge and marry Steppenwolf with the scene. It's small tricks like that really help sell CG objects as being real. Interaction.
But I can see that mud in the water being actual displacement from a real person. Just watch it stick under his left foot. Boink. The way that stick moves and that little splash in the water there,
It looks
I don't think
so
that's CG.
real,
But
yeah.
look at the size of his foot. No one's walking around with size
Big old
48
boots.
feet.
Big old boots.
Big old boots on.
Big old boots, dog.
Come on,
It's
movie
just the
magic.
awareness to make a stick bounce in the perfectly realistic way like that.
That's just good artistic detail.
I think that stick feels real to me.
Yeah, it feels real to me too. Maybe Whedon will let us know.
But yeah, no, here
on,
I
Whedon.
actually would be super interested to see a breakdown of this specific shot. Whedon, HBO, whoever, Warner Brothers, make it happen.
I feel like they could have gotten Zack Snyder to. Zack Snyder's on so many YouTube channels, and I feel like Zack Snyder would be a perfect candidate to be out here. Weirdly, it's like it's so easy to chalk up all the effects and go, yeah, Steppenwolf looked like shit before, or this looked bad before, it looks so much better now. Out of everything we've talked about, we've talked extensively about the Snyder Cut at this point. This is the first time we're really deep diving into the differences and the details of the VFX. Everything's been about is the story and all that much better, and it is absolutely. I mean, we did like a 4.5 hour spoiler talk on it, and it's all mainly character and story beats. And then here with the VFX, you're like, well, damn, that was also 4 hours of different visual effects that we
throughout.
just have kind of gotten used to or taken advantage of, or we just expect it to look great because it's Zack Snyder, you know? And when you watch this, damn, that is pretty crazy that not only did we get a better told movie and a better paced movie, the VFX from beginning to end are that much better too.
Yeah, and I mean, he's absolutely right. Like, even just watching these side-by-sides up until now, it's like I'm learning so much about not only the construction, but, you know, the considerations of how the effects do enhance the story.
That he is.
Yeah.
Look at those Amazonians.
Props to Snyder for showing the stunt people hit the ground when they do the
Yes.
stunt. Like in the original cut, she hits the wall and it cuts away. It's like the wall impact isn't what's important. It's the impact on the ground that's important.
Ow.
I mean, anybody can go, It's the
hit. It's
that
the
hurts.
wreck. Yes.
Yeah.
Snyder's
Oh,
someone who
yeah.
I think, when you look at his work, is someone who is like obsessed with the dynamics of the human body and stunt people and their movement. I think it shows because the Snyder version feels like it has more momentum and weight.
More physics. More palpable physics.
So she's going to make a run for it. There's a real cost here. Needs to get out with the box, right? They're going to have to break the wooden supports in order to drop gates.
Trapping themselves in that hallway.
into the hallway.
Knowingly doing so.
To me, this is a huge difference between the two. These shots here of these Amazons knocking down the pillars.
It
done
just
in
looks
slow
so
motion.
ugly
Look
in
at how many
2017.
more there are.
Yeah, you
Zack
see it
Snyder
side by
is so
side.
in love with the human form that he gives you the entire wind-up all the way around, which gives you the
Look
sense
at
of
those
weight and
muscles.
the heaviness of it. What do you get in the Whedon cut? You get the last bit of it of just the impact.
Blur.
It's not about the impact. It's about this Herculean effort to like throw this hammer all the way around. You're just like, these are giant, larger-than-life beings destroying things. It's so much more intense to build
I
up.
love this
Look at
guy.
how much you're gonna in the original cut, just their struggle holding it up and how much of a build-up it is.
I love it. Yeah, man.
Long
The
slide shot
intensity,
all the way
the
and
build.
slow all the way, and you see it, this finality of it closing, as opposed to in Justice League, it's just like, cool, okay, they're just trapped in there, because there's no point.
And then what's
Swoosh.
crazy here is that in the original Justice League, they just leave and then he busts through the
Yes.
wall and chases after
Yeah.
them. But in the Snyder Cut, you're like, there are hundreds of people in that thing, and it's now
everyone.
falling into the ocean. They are all dying right now. You're just
devastation.
like, when I watched the Snyder Cut of this, I was just like, my jaw was literally
This scene was so much cooler in the Snyder Cut.
And we're not even talking about the visual effects
And the
here
visual
right
effects
now.
are great there.
The visual effects are great. Look at this
He's
shot.
like a stuntman reactor there.
Look at this amazing shot.
It's arguably a flawless shot. Like the physics are perfect. the smoke is
They're like
perfect,
in
the
love
lighting
with
is
this
great.
movie.
This was definitely a money shot on their list of
Yeah,
like important
big,
shots.
Big money shot. The dust getting in there, water interaction.
God, that's true. I honestly forgot about some of what happens in the Josstice version of what was kept. But that's one I remember when we did a reaction to it, I was in love with that moment where the sacrifice was made because it greatly builds up our villain. She goes through this struggle. They're all struggling just to get it away from the parademons and Steppenwolf. She has to make the ultimate sacrifice of her people, and they all go descending into the depths of the water and rubble. Did it make a difference? Did it make a dent? Steppenwolf and the parademons come after her no matter what she does, and you're like, damn, Steppenwolf and the parademons are difficult to defeat. It was damn good story beat that is not felt at all in the Josstice version.
No, I mean it's
Yeah.
reduced. It's reduced to a set piece. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here gotta get some action, but you know, yeah, just that tooth and nails quality, the expanding on that footage is. It's funny, like so much of the debate has centered around like, oh, you know, like what is truly different and what has just been recontextualized or you know expanded. But those expansions can make something feel incredibly different from you know something based on the same footage.
And I think people can sometimes take details for granted, whether it be like a little extra beat or not, you know?
They're like them hitting the floor.
I love
That's my
that
favorite
right there.
detail, right?
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And the glass melts. That's amazing. Some artists had to make a perfect movie quality CG hot dog.
I say overall, this scene is pretty dang great. Like my misgivings for like how it actually happened with her and momentum and all that stuff, like it doesn't matter. He saves the woman from a car crash in a really cool slow-mo way. How do you think they filmed that though?
I imagine she's on a wire.
It's kind of like a wire, but I think it's actually a motion control arm. She's got her hair pulled back, so all of the hair you see is computer generated.
They did the CG hair also for Wonder Woman when she's moving really fast in that fight scene. When she's ramping all over the
wish they
place,
broke
and
it
her
up.
hair wouldn't move like that if you just did regular speed ramps. They had to
Wouldn't
take
have
her
picked
hair
it
out.
for Wonder
But there's
Woman.
another aspect of her that's computer generated that you might not have realized. Her clothes.
Oh, really? Because they need a ripple in the correct way.
Yeah. and-
That's textbook. Oh, you think you know what's CG in this shot? You're like, oh, yeah. What about all her hair and her coat? Oh, you did look
damn.
real. I could tell. No, you didn't.
Notice how he's being very careful to keep his hands outstretched and not actually pressing down on her because they knew that they're going to have to replace all of that. So they didn't want to have like him physically conforming his hand to clothing that's not there yet. They actually nailed the surface contact shadows between his hand and her clothes really well.
Jeepers.
Oh, and they deleted all that.
All that work.
There are moments in the movie, in the Snyder Cut, that they needed to do basically reshoots without reshooting. So what did they do?
They took that from Man of
They
Steel.
probably used old footage.
They used old footage. So there's a scene between Darkseid and Superman, and he's like all like sad and whatnot. But it's from Man of Steel after Zod dies. That's like the actual moment from the movie years ago. They added a little bit of a CG tear going down his face too.
The only thing jank is the shadow from Darkseid.
That tear CG.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, look at Henry Cavill showing up.
I mean, it's a good CG tear. I've seen more obvious looking CG tears in my lifetime, but
Wow, actors just sometimes never need to act.
yeah, not now. Not now that we got glycerin, we got CGI, we got all sorts of
CG
things.
tear in there. Oh damn, that's disturbing.
Teardrop gate.
Whoa. Usually a tear was the mark of a good actor. Mm-hmm. Now it could just be CGI.
Yeah, man. Next time we gotta have a full-on crying-based episode. Only crying scenes.
I've seen Henry Cavill. Does he cry in Man of Steel?
It's
Whatever.
only because he wasn't crying in the take thing. It's not because he can't cry.
Because that's the mark of a good actor.
Yes, crying. It's the one metric.
The only thing jank is the shadow from Darkseid. As we talked about in the Harry Potter piece, it's really hard to add shadow on something that's already lit.
But I mean, that being said, they did a really good job here. It doesn't take you out of it at all. It's just a cool detail that it's like, you know, in order to make something happen, you pull out all the stops to, you know, just do what's necessary. Oh, you got to use old footage? Well, make it work.
Superman, can we ask you some questions? It's for our podcast.
Well, in that case.
Another thing that blew me away when I went back to rewatch the Josstice League was that the Snyder Cut opens on this really like moody moment of Superman dying and yelling and sound waves going out. And then the original Justice League opens up with
This wackiness.
For those of you who don't know the story, Henry Cavill was currently working on Mission Impossible 5, 6?
Something like that.
Mission Impossible Mustache Edition.
He was contractually obligated to keep that mustache. He couldn't shave it for these reshoots. And they're like, you'd fix it in post, right? Well,
The human lip is the hardest thing to do in CG.
Truly.
so in the new version, this is just not
Oh my
present at
God.
all.
Oh,
It's
I really
completely
see it now.
cut.
Yes.
There is no reshoot of Henry Cavill with a mustache in the Snyder Cut.
Because those were reshoots for the Whedon cut originally, right?
Do you know what? Zack Snyder, he's doing away with Joss Whedon's original vision, you know? And I think we should bring it back. We should bring back the Whedon cut. So I think we need to give Superman the mustache he deserves.
Yes. Yes. Do it.
Yeah, we have all of this incredible reference footage from Mission Impossible of Henry Cavill with the mustache. What if we deep fake the mustache back onto all of the Superman shots? Because Superman needs a mustache. That's right, we are releasing the mustache cut.
What?
So subscribe for that video. It's coming out very soon. And
No
don't forget,
way.
we
We
got,
gotta look out for that.
Peter here,
Absolutely.
and he doesn't do things not at 900%. I mean, how big would Superman's mustache actually be?
Good question. I mean, you guys know how Superman shaves, right? They address this. If there's a canon
No,
to how
wait,
Superman
no,
shaves.
really?
In the mirror, lasers. Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. We need that in
What
live
a
action.
weird thing to exist. It's right, there's so many things that had to come together for this movie to exist. It's one of these weird artifacts of film history that happens so rarely that when it does, it warrants your attention. And you know what? If you're into film, definitely recommend going frame by frame and really thinking about what the differences are and how they affect the final product and your perception of the final product.
You know, there's a lot of comments in these threads talking about how great Dungeons and Daddies is.
No, people liking the podcast.
Yeah, so
That's
people
good.
are listening.
So I've been doing this podcast called Dungeons and Daddies. It's a D&D podcast. This last year I've also been helping out my dad with his book, which describes his escape from the Chinese Cultural Revolution by swimming the channel between China and Hong Kong. About a 5 or 6 mile swim, which is very long.
Yeah, that 5 or 6 miles
How
might
much
not
did you
seem
train?
that long, but if you're swimming that, how long did it take him?
It took him 8 hours.
8 hours of swimming. How did he not drown?
Flotation device. There's a whole
Okay,
thing.
fair.
He wrote a book about it.
Dude,
I helped him out with
what a
it.
story.
Don't spoil the book.
Freedom. You can pre-order it right now. It's on Amazon.
The most shocking thing had his whole
yeah.
whole video with
Save
this
the
information
revelation
about
for
his
that.
dad.
Yeah.
If you like these videos, consider subscribing. We got them coming out every
Aw,
single
Clint's
weekend.
still
2
on the
videos a
bottom
week at
now.
least.
Nice.
These days.
Oh, even though he left, that's cool.
Crazy.
You content gluttons.
The mustache cut. Don't forget. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a good time.
Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Man, that just made me appreciate the Snyder Cut that much more.
Just when you
Just
thought
when you
you
thought
couldn't
you-
appreciate it any more than
Just
you
when
do
you
already.
thought you're like, my appreciation is maxed out. Nope.
And just when you thought your unappreciation for Josstice League couldn't get any greater either.
Oh,
like
man.
they left all this work on the table.
Well, I guess what I didn't notice, like in some of those shots, like especially the one where he's with Lois on the farm, when they had them side by side, the lip thing I had noticed, but I didn't realize the whole reshaping of kind of his cheekbones and face, that
the
how
lower
different that
half
is.
of his head gets a whole puffy rework.
It's not just here. It's literally like stretched out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking, like, I don't know if he would have been allowed to shave around it, because throughout Fallout, he has, like, a 5 o'clock shadow to support that mustache, so it feels like, while the mustache gets all the, attention, it seems like they probably would have had to gone in and smoothed out his entire bottom half of his face, his lower jaw and everything.
Well, that was a great video. I really love that one.
It was very informative.
Miss these guys. Hey, subscribe to Core Crew if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Last but not least, Maria Hammond. Maria, my dear, I sent you an extensively long message the other day, and I just want to say thank you for being encouraging and being understanding, supportive, and all the kinds of mental and emotional ways I need. You've been an incredible rock in our lives, my life specifically. I am really grateful that you are someone who enjoys our company and our attention and is not sick of us and is understanding if we are lacking in something. So thank you, my dear. You're an amazing spirit. Just want to sincerely hop on here and say thank you.
Much love, Maria.
Undercut it.
Well, hey, I don't really care, though, because you sent me t-shirts, and that's about the extent of our relationship. So thanks for that, Maria. Send some more.
That was mean.
I'm not good at just...
Oh, John.
I take it all back. Maria...
mean of an undercut.
I don't want to undercut it. I
Tension
just want
and
to share
release,
my
not
love for
more
Maria,
tension
too.
and more tension.
No, because think of how much greater the release will be ultimately when we find it, when we bumble our way toward that release.
We have not found it.